Hi everyone, good morning. We finally got to video number 6. I would say that video number 6 is a turning point in the series. Why? Although we talked about a plugin, we saw a special component, we haven't really dealt on how you build it, how you do it. So from this point on in the series, we are moving to the technical aspect. In another word, we'll put the head of being a computer scientist. Now, computer scientists really need to know a hell of a lot, but it's not enough. That's why we started with the content. We're dealing in this series in financial statement analysis, accounting. We saw the component, and that's the content. But tomorrow we'll do a series on corporate valuation, another topic. That one will have also the whole philosophy, the whole literature, taking into account the whole literature, taking into account research, methodology used in practice. And then you want to implement it. How would you implement it if you don't have the skills in computer science? So this video, these next two videos will focus mostly on the client side, because we're going to talk about plugin, a topic that is extremely important and generally speaking. And we will focus mostly on a plugin in Django CMS. Django CMS becomes to be extremely popular. I really recommend you go and look at companies using Django CMS or Django generally. You'll see companies like Washington Post. You'll see companies like YouTube, Instagram, Dropbox, Spotify. They are big companies. It's a beautiful framework that was written in Python, meaning you really need to know Python very well. And then you need to know also JavaScript very well, unless you use React or something else. We use really JavaScript on the client side. We use Python on the server side. We use Postgres on the server side. We have a very elaborated way of organizing all our code in Dockers, making our server extremely efficient and reduce costs substantially. So Academy City framework is really Django/Django CMS with all the things involved with it. In addition, we develop a hell of a lot of special and unique elements. And this is the first time we'll start exposing it a little bit to the public. Today we'll do it with a plugin that you have seen already. We used it. So let's look at it. If you remember, we did use this plugin and we used that for accounting. By the way, I added another two, as I promised in, I think, video 2 or 3, that we're going to add another 2 buttons, and I will show how easy it is when you work nice. Okay, so what do we have really here? We have a nice component for accounting. I have a button, clean up everything. I have one, by the way, if I click on the other button, it will run all the functionality of all the buttons we went over last time. So when you click on it, bingo, it's run all of them, and I get exactly the result as if I clicked on each one of them. By the way, every X here does the inverse. So let's say just demonstrate. If I click, I empty everything here, issuing 50,000 or 50 million, whatever you like, and it will do the entry of the cash went up and the common stock went up. We went over that last time. This time we're going to know how that button works. And secondly, how this one does the reverse. And you will see how when you design it right, it's so elegant. Moreover, I don't know if you noticed, I haven't used debit or credit in teaching accounting. I don't think many places teaches that way. In my opinion, it's wrong to use debit and credit, meaningless. And I will just make a comment from the accounting point of view, and then we'll see how elegantly it comes to when you do the programming. 1, stop thinking about debit and credit. If you do, please go and look at my website. I do a reference to a very excellent website. I follow that guy in England. He wrote Principles of Accounting. I think it's an amazing book. Please go watch his videos. Excellent job he has done. And when I saw him doing it, I was very happy because finally I found someone that agreed with me that this is the way to teach accounting, not debit and credit. You have to think about assets can go up and down, liability can go up and down, equity can go up and down. Now it's a very important comment. When we get to the video of business intelligence for accounting, I'm going to talk about the dimensions of accounting. It doesn't make any sense to you now because I haven't talked about it at all. But when you get to that video, I think that should be video number 8. And I will talk about a cube, multi-dimension cube. And when I talk about multi-dimension cube, I will make a comment and I will explain in more detail that the income statement, in fact, it's a sub-account of retained earning, really, you can think. And you can think about it, you can see it from here. The bottom line of the income, it goes to the schedule of retained earning. By the way, I promised to add this part, and I did. And I'm going to explain how that works very elegantly, okay? But in the end of the day, whatever is in the income statement goes to retained earning. In another word, the whole income statement, it really is a sub-account of retained earning. What does it really mean? From programming point of view, from accounting point of view, if income statement is sub-account of accounting and it belongs to the equity, any transactions that happen in the business can affect assets, can affect liabilities and equity. And when I talk about income statement, I really am talking about something affecting equity. And I might break it to do part of accounts that make revenue for the company and part that are expenses. So bottom line, all transactions that affect on accounting are increase or decrease assets, increase or decrease liabilities, increase or decrease equity. And the equity, we kind of make a special part that relate to the income statement, and we have account that they are increasing the equity, they are kind of revenues that will be automatically increasing equity, and expense reducing equity. And we're just classifying them that way. And therefore, we're getting that account, we'll get the statement of income statement. Okay, when we get to the business intelligence, will make much more sense. I had to say what I said now, that in the end of the day, you don't really need to learn debit, credit, and accounting. Just think about transactions that are affecting one of those 8 possibilities. Increase, decrease assets, it's 2. Increase, decrease liabilities is another 2, total 4. Increase or decrease equity, and another 2, last 2, it's within the equity, something that increase revenue or decrease revenue, which is expense. So you'll have 8 types that could be. And when we get to the buttons here, you'll see how elegantly we take that understanding and how simple it is. One more thing that I have said already in the past, if you look very well, very carefully, you'll notice, let me run that one, refresh it, and you can see it. If you look at the, where am I? I think I just jumped to, but that's okay. Let's go into here again. Okay. When you look at the statement here, you have the balance, the beginning balance of the balance sheet. This is what the end of the second year, and that's the income statement for the year. All accounts in the statement of cash flow are automatically derived from the difference in the balance sheets. I made that comment and I referred to that in the first or second or third, I think the third video. And that means that really this one theoretically doesn't have any new information, but the way we organize it really is revealing a lot of information. But from programming point of view, there's no data entry here. There's only derived elements from whatever is already entered, okay? Secondly, if you look at the schedule of retained earning, you have the beginning balance from the balance sheet, which was 123 in this example. You have the net income, which is really the income statement. So that also comes here. So there's no data entry in the schedule of retained earning. The only things we really put here is dividend, okay? There's other example. You can talk about stock dividend, okay, which is slightly different, okay? And that will do something, but I will leave it to you as an exercise. If you want to expand this example, add another one, another example by the end of the video, you should be able to add another 16 stock dividend. You can do a lot more transactions, but those 15 are, I would say, 80% of what a company does. And the purpose here is really touching the logic and how you program these kind of things. And that's the objective of today. So let's start. And how do we going to start? Okay, how are we going to start? Before I even talk about the plugin itself, is how you create a plugin and how do you create a plugin in Django, which is a topic by itself. Okay, many people focus only on that top and don't get into the sophistication on how you really should use a plugin in Django CMS when you have a broader understanding and a broader structure, understanding of the structure of Django. So let's jump. So that's the first time I'm exposing you to our really the way we work, and we work in the right way. And I recommend that if you launch a project, we have a huge project here going on, which is which we use for Academy City. We have a lot of applications. This is the Django project, which has several applications. Each one of them does something else. By the way, all the corporate valuation / financial statements, it's one project, which has a lot of beautiful stuff. And we work in a very organized way. Otherwise, you get lost, totally lost. Moreover, we support languages. It's not the topic of today, so there might be some code that we're already building up something. We always take into account that we're going to use different languages and we support languages. So everything we build, we take that one into account. I'm not going to talk about it in this series. That's a special topic. So if I want to build up a plugin for Django CMS, okay, first of all, I need to add another file inside the applications that I want to use it. But you can really theoretically put it everywhere. And I like to work in a nice way, so I always put it in the application that I'm going to use that plugin most likely. So here is stage number 1. It's making a file cms_plugins.py. Nothing I'm going to tell you today you cannot find on the internet. So this is very vanilla stuff, but I'm going to make a comment. Okay, I'm going to make a very important comment. You will see in the documentation of Django, you will see those libraries you need to use, especially those 3 ones. CMS plugin base, CMS plugin, plugin pool. I'm not going to waste your time on things I think you can find in other places. I'll just go over it in an organized way. If you watch my video several times, you definitely will get it, but I'm not going to teach it like a beginner. I assume you already know Django, you know Python very well. And in fact, for the next video, you don't really need to know Python too much, mostly JavaScript. When we get back to other topics, especially business intelligence, and I will show you how you build up a database in the right way, then you will see you need to know Python and you need to know databases. For now, I'm assuming you know basic Python and you know Django. So here's the plugin. How do we build up? We make a file, and in the file, step number one, we have those three. As I mentioned before, I always add this one because I support multi-language. So I just put it there and it becomes to be easy. What is the structure of building a plugin? By the way, there are other plugins I use, but I'm not going to talk about them today. I'm going to talk only about the first one that you guys using in the 5 session we talked about in the course. So how do you do it? Very easy. The first one is really a decorator that registers the plugin. You don't really have to think at all. All what you need to know is that you're going to write exactly the way this line is. Second, you write a class, and that class, you give it a name. And that one inheriting for CMS plugin base. And frankly, we should say thank you to those guys that are doing a beautiful job building up Django CMS. So here we go. They did a lot of work, beautiful work. We just use it, okay? And here we go, no blame. Second line is basically writing a class in Python, giving it a name, and inheriting from something that already exists in this library. And here we go. That's why we're bringing that library right to here. Then it's a model. And here I want to make a comment. I usually use that simple model. It's already out of the box. In fact, if you look at the way they built it in Django CMS, the guys, it's a kind of a model. And by the way, there are a lot of documentation. You can extend that model if you want, meaning build your own class, inherit from CMS plugin, and add to it more fields. And those fields, when you use it in Django CMS, you can add content, and that can be immediately used inside the template. That's one way to do it. I recommend not to do that. If you have a bigger picture of how Django works, and I will refer to the view that open the page in which I'm going to put the plugin, and if I take that into account, you'll realize I will have much more power doing that way. In another word, one way I can do is take the CMS plugin, build a new class, inheriting for CMS plugin, add to it more field, and then statically, or I should say really semi-statically, when I use that plugin in Django CMS, I can use there as a parameter. Let me show you what I mean, okay? So let me go to this time to my computer, really the one that I'm doing my my programming. Before I upload it to a testing and then to the server. Not this one. I wanted something else. Sorry about that. By the way, this is a very elaborated, so I'm logging in as an administrator, which allows me to get into many capabilities that most of you don't have access to. So bear with me, and I'm going to log in as an administrator. My menu looks different than the one I opened for the public, because I also manage a lot of things for this one, but this one really just I would say this one is only for development purposes. So this is the component, okay? And by the way, when I decide to put a plugin, the way you do it in Django, it's very simple. You have already a page, and you have to build up the way that you can put a plugin inside. I go into Edit, I go into here, and then I have a place that I can put plugins. So you have to build up, and I assume that you already know how to do it. In a minute, I will show you the page I'm using. That's a very sophisticated page, because don't forget, it's very elaborated, which allow to build really a whole content e-learning system. But this is for programmers. There's a lot of buttons here we did for our own staff, for instructors, how to build up a content for a regular course. But that's a different video. For today, I want to focus only on this one. And I have to make sure to put the right things so I can put a plugin. And as you can tell here, I have a section in which I can put a plugin. Let me remove the plugin first. I'm going to remove it. So as if I don't have anything. I remove it, it's gone. Okay, it's gone. Publish. But then, by the way, this is my development. So this page is not a trivial page. It's a very sophisticated page because it's allowed me to put the plugin any place I want. So if I want already to put it in another, let's say next to the ratio analysis, okay, I have already a plugin here, okay? If I want to plug in and add it on the top of it, okay, if I go into here, by the way, you see this is a different plugin, but I want to add the plugin we just using. So all what I have to do is really to click on the plus and choose the FSA. By the way, you see the FSA is the name I gave to it. If you look at here, it's the class name. But the truth of the matter, I always add the name. And then, as I said before, when I use multiple language, I will be able to change it to a different language. Or if I change my mind, I can write the whole word, financial statement analysis. I don't have to touch anything else. I will be really elegantly done, okay? But first of all, I want to show you how I add the plugin to the page, and then I will talk about, again, I want to go back to why I don't change that one and just use the vanilla, okay? So let's go back to here and add a plugin, which is FSA. You see I have no parameters, and in a minute I will explain why I don't need those. Okay, I added that, so, but I want already to put it right here, and bingo. I have publish it, and this becomes to be on the top. Okay, it's a standalone, and everything is the same. It will function just like any, I can put it in any place. I click on it, everything is zero. Any transactions will work just beautifully. Okay, now you say, what happened if my plugins, I would like to put some parameters that will affect whatever it is, okay? Let's say you want to start with, everything is millions or thousands. So you want a parameters to test the scale. It really is a stupid example, but it's good enough from concept of programming. You could have taken this model, the CMS plugin, which is a model really, inherit from it, build up your own, and just add a field or two, or whatever number of fields you need. And then you can, when you add the plugin, as I did here, okay, when you add the plugin, you will be able to, let's add another one kind of, without really adding, I will cancel. Here you will get all those fields, and you can put parameters. And then very easily, you can use it within the template. You can pull those one using the instance and just use those ones. You can really look it up in other videos of other people, or just go into the documentation of Django, and they explain it really beautifully. Since I'm not going to use it, and I will explain the logic why I'm not going to use it, so forget about it. So from now on, what I recommend is what you do is, let me remove it so I won't forget it later on. This was just for demonstration. Okay. If you go here and you said, okay, this is vanilla. From now on, all my plugins will be so simple. I just give them a name, inherit from the model, and put a template. And here we go. This is a template. And in a minute, I'm going to dive deeply into it. But hold a second. What did we do here? What did we do here? When I added a plugin, it went inside another page. So plugin was designed to be put into another page. By the way, this other way I can put a mini HTML, I would call it. Why is a mini really HTML? Just think about it. Ignoring the fact that this is really handling my registration of the plugin. In the end of the day, it's really like taking an HTML template with all the power of doing it in Django and using Ginger language and using a database and all of that stuff, beautiful stuff. In the end of the day, it's a mini program, kind of, you can call it. Why do I call it a program? Because I'm going to use extensively JavaScript, and I can write a whole client-side, heavy client-side program, which can do a hell of a lot. Moreover, you know Ajax, and within that I can use the Ajax if I need any information from the server. So nothing stopped me from turning this mini template into a blown up big application working independently. And if you build it up in a smart way, you can make it user-friendly, meaning a user don't really have to wait too long until it downloads. And that's really required a good design, and I will talk about it as we go along. But first of all, I want to explain why by not using or inheriting from this one and putting parameters, I still can do very well. And how do I do that? By the way, this is a really elaborated page we're using in Academy City. It's part of our huge framework of building a content for a course. In the end of the day, this plugin going to be inside another page. So if I'm rendering a page, okay, or template, I should say, the process in Django will be that you're going from the URLs to the views, and from the views, you submit or render the page, and that page will have a place for plugins. So let's look at it. Let me show you another projects that we worked on, which is the courses. And this one is quite a heavy duty one. And the views are already elaborated and it's huge, okay, and has its own beautiful stuff in it. But the key one is, if you look at the templates and we try to be really well organized, we have a template called course schedule detail, okay? And if you know Django, you know we're extending and a lot of stuff is done in this template, and extending it's allow me a lot of stuff. So I have a block of content, etc., etc. And you go down, you go down, you go down. You have a lot of, by the way, here you have a JavaScript stuff that does a lot of other stuff. But the bottom line is that in the end of the day, okay, in the end of the day, by the way, you can see there's a loop on all the courses, and it has a form, and inside the form, blah, blah, blah. You can see a lot of things for course. You have another counter, and inside that, it gives you all those elements to build up. So, by the way, I don't really see here, where is my plugin going to be? Okay, so let's go and look at the base. Is the base has it? Or maybe I missed something. How do I find, by the way, how do I find a plugin? Anybody have an idea, guys? Anybody? It's all here. So it must be somewhere. Where is it? So let's go into and look at the base. Okay, let's go into the base, and the base is in Academy City. So that means I need to go somewhere here in the templates, go to Academy City, and that should be right there. And where is the base? Here it is, the base. So do I have anything here? Oh, surprising. It's also extending another one. Okay, what is the 0? Right here. And let's look at this one. Does this one has a placeholder? Oh, here we go. We have a static placeholder. Okay. So in a static placeholder, you know, it automatically will allow me to put a placeholder inside it. Okay. But the truth of the matter, this is really the one we did it. It's really much more sophisticated than that. This is the classical, and you would expect something like that for things that you can put or put a placeholder. What we have done, so now I would like to talk about why we don't really need to create another class or inheriting from CMS plugin and put parameters so I can modify it as I put that one inside a page. The reason is you can really transfer that information to the plugin through the view that render the page in which you want to use that plugin. In our example, or wherever we're talking, this is the page. It's hosting this plugin. So when I'm rendering the page, I'm rendering it through the view. And in the view, I can do whatever I want. I can pull data from a database. In fact, all the parameters that I might use into the plugin, I might transfer to it through the view. For example, let's look at where this plugin in this page. So let's look at where this one is in a page. It really is complex framework. So I won't dive too much, but showing you the view, which is really part of a big things, and I call it home. And then, as you can tell here, I can really use a lot of stuff. Use a database. I pull departments, courses. Courses belong to a sub course, sub fields, sub sections in the course, blah, blah, blah. And there's so much in that. And all of them I'm transferring to the page that hosting, by the way, belongs to a different application. Yeah. And this one is hosting the plugin. Okay. So if you go to, by the way, this one, the truth of the matter, this page hosting other pages inside it in a very sophisticated way, one of which is really the course detail template. By the way, it's a template really. It's not a standalone page. It's embedded inside the home page, but it has a really special, and how we do it, I leave it for us. After all, I can't really reveal everything. But by the way, you can see here, there's a condition really. And when I put this when I can put this plugin, okay? So by adding this one right here, I'm allowing myself inside this page to put their plugins. And by the way, if I know that that's where the plugins is supposed to, I can transfer anything to that plugin in the end of the day. Why? Why? Because what Django does is taking the whole things and rendering to the user as one HTML in the end of the day. Really, I even can emphasize even the tools that you're seeing here, they are rendered as part of the HTML that the user received. So even all the tools that Django CMS using, they are nothing but HTML slash JavaScript slash all those stuff that we know how to make it dynamic. So this one allows everything is, so this plugin himself, if I do right click and view page source, you should find that plugin somewhere here and you'll see the whole code, by the way. We will see this code right there, okay? Stuff we will be using, okay? Let's see if let's find that wherever it's supposed to be, is called there. Here we go, all those stuff we'll be using, okay? This is the second plugin. This is my first plugin. So all those stuff, it's really HTMLs. Those HTMLs, what are they? Okay, what are they? By the way, let me do that. Control F. And you will find a lot of the stuff that we use. And I will show you later on, if we have time, I will show you that this is really nothing but stuff that we have that merge into the same page. I hope it's obvious for you, but I just want to make sure whoever doesn't really have that nice understanding of how Django works. So in the end of the day, anything I need for this plugin, I can transfer through the view. So I wouldn't recommend to use anything but this simple structure and then leave all the work inside the view as we're doing here. Okay, but this template is so simple. I'll go back to our view for rendering that page. So this is the view that eventually inside it's going to be the template. But since this template is so simple, as we saw here, it's really a standalone JavaScript application, I can say. So it's a beautiful way to take a plugin and take really almost a standalone program written in JavaScript, wherever use React, wherever use Node.js, which also does even the server side in JavaScript, can understand that it's elegantly doing a client-side, full client-side application. Okay, now that we talked about how to build up a plugin in Django CMS, how do we use it, let's dive into the real stuff. The real stuff is this one. This one is really what does the hard work. And what do we have here? Let's shrink everything. So we can really have it good. Let's shrink everything. Then eventually we'll open up what we need here. And you will see, oh, beautiful. We have some JavaScript code. I always like it this way. And Daniel, we have Daniel with us. Hi, Daniel. Can you hear me, Daniel?
Yes, Doctor, I can hear.
Okay. Daniel is, I'm going to work with Daniel to, that will be our next innovative project. How will you put JavaScript, not in here, but in a database, and make a mechanism to do it automatically? That's going to be one of our projects coming up in the next year. That will be beautiful, and we will definitely share it with you. I think it will contribute a lot to the JavaScript community, to the Django community. It's kind of replacing React, but making React much more sophisticated, and moreover, allowing you to build up your own in a much easier way to handle all those objects and the functions. For now, this is doing a good job, especially in an application which is really so simple. It's only one page, whole application in one page. But even then, make it and organize it nicely. So let's go over the HTML first. What do we have in this page? What do we have in this plugin? 2 buttons, and then we have a row. This is really organized in a row. So in a row, I can put columns. That's all HTML, yeah? Columns. Each column, I'll put a div, and inside the div, I will put a table. And the table will be really simple. Here, I have 3 columns. Here, I have 2 columns. And then inside I put, so this is I put it as a div. Honestly, I don't remember exactly how I did it, but it doesn't matter. I will say exactly in a second. But the concept is simple. Just to make it nice and condensed for students, I put another column in which I put the income statement inside, which is a table. Then we have another little table for the schedule for, and then all those buttons. Those buttons we build it up in a smart way, so it will make the programming of the JavaScript to be elegant and a nice one. Okay. Second, we have another column, another table, but here we have only one column. And by the way, in this column we have only data which we're updating from the other ones. So anything we do, by the way, if I just type 100 here, I'll just add 100, we'll see something change, okay? There's 115, automatically update the other stuff, update this one, okay? And then should change really the change in cache. By the way, this is really an error. I should really look at it. It should really have changed the cache, but that's okay, we'll fix it. I probably will find a lot of those. 99% works beautifully. Okay, I might destroy it. It used to work really nicely, but I don't know. It should really change the cache. By the way, this 15 always has to be the difference between those two. Okay, always has to be the difference. So if I change it to 118, something should have changed. Okay, but I will go over and check it and share it with you. I'll give it to you as an exercise to fix it. We'll upload this code online to the GitHub, and then you can download the whole code. And by the way, I will give to you guys and to the community how you can extend it or give an ideas. I'm not going to do it because I have so much other things to do, but this could be excellent exercise for you. Okay, so let's move on. We have 3 columns. Each one of them we put a div. Inside we put tables. We put tables and some buttons. And here we put a table with 2 columns. This one has 2 columns. One that is really just, I can put it in the TD of the row. If I have a row of 3 TDs columns, this one will be empty originally, and I'll put just a number inside. This one holds an input, so I can type in a number, okay? Same for here, but here we have only 1 column. Let's look at the code. 2 buttons, row, 3 columns, and each column has something in it. So let's look at the code. Let's look at the structure of the page. 2 buttons. Each button, when I click on it, okay, it has a function. So when I click on that, by the way, to do it elegant and try to do that, try to keep the same function when it's really coherently should be that way. Okay, and transfer to it some parameters. Here I'm transferring the parameters equal to 1 or 0. I will see in a minute what does it do. Secondly, this one already is just for allowing multi-language. So whoever works with a multi-language, you really put it that way, but it's really clean data. And by the way, this component, I did it. It works beautifully in French and Arabic, and we already have implemented it. So if we have time, I will show you how it translates to Arabic or French, okay? And this button, run all transactions, it's the same, use the same function, okay? Then next, the top part again, it's really for making sure that if I talk about the language to write from right to left, like Arabic or Hebrew, then it will automatically move the whole things from right to left. So that's a little trick. You can ignore this part for now. But really, what you really have is that we have 3 divs, okay? We have 3 divs, and those 3 divs, in each one of them, it is a column. You can see the class is a column, and you can see that really the hosting one has a class row. So this div, besides taking care of the languages, it really is defining the div to be a row. And if it's a row, I can put as many columns as I want, and I put 3 columns, 1 for each one that we just saw. The first one is really the HTML for the first column. Let's go and see, and you'll see this repeating, and that's the beauty when you do it in the right way. Okay, so let's look at it. 3 columns, and we're going to focus on the first one. That's very simple. We have a title, have something that in the middle. By the way, you could have put the assets all over, but I just chose to put it in the first TD and put the other 2 empty. So that's simple. And then you have another one for the current asset. So that's no brain, adding 3 rows. Okay. The important things is all those stuff. So you can make really one and copy it and change the title, but this is very important, the way we name it, the idea I give it. It will affect big time on efficiency in programming in JavaScript. And look at what I did, okay? Let's look at the first cache. Let's look at that one. Let's go and find it in the code, okay? So as I said, you have those 3 that giving you the titles, and this is really the important one. By the way, you'll see it's repeating. All of them are very similar. In fact, they are 1-to-1. But the important things is, okay, how do you name it? First of all, I made a class of account just for styling. I'm not going to go over it. I will leave it to you as an exercise, simple exercise in styling. Okay, and I'm not the expert really. So, and I'm focusing mostly on the functionality. Jeremiah in our team is the expert, and he's going to work on even making it nicer as we go along. So the table will look really a nice table, not really so primitive the way I design it, okay? But the idea is getting it to work in the right way. So stage number 1, naming. Pay attention, I have 2 TDs now here. Those 2 TD, and then in fact I have 3, let's break it that way, okay? We have 3 TDs in this row. And the naming is what I want to focus on. No coincidence, I called it cache and cache 0. And the second one, I called cache 1. Same name, okay? 1 has really, inside is only a number. It's like the inner element, okay? Whoever knows, if I want to change the number, I will use inner HTML in the JavaScript. And here, I'm putting inside the TD, let's put it this way, okay? The third TD, I'm putting really the input element, okay? And the input, I also call it cache, but I give it 1. So 0 is for the fact that it's going to be the first year, and the 1 is for the next one. And the JavaScript code will be so nicely, and will use that one, okay? So that's the way we really do all of them. I will put it back because it looks to me a little more elegant for me when okay, but you choose the way you like it, okay? But it's really repetition. The second one is inventory. I do the same things, inventory 0, inventory 1, and the whole thing. So it's not one. By the way, could be really a nice exercise. Daniel, it could be a nice exercise for you. How will you write this one to create this, even create this structure in JavaScript? You know already how to do that, okay? You make an element tr, and inside the tr, you will give the name that you want the account to be called, okay? And you give the whatever you want it to be called, and you can build it up with JavaScript, okay? The only one that you'll have a challenge is how do you do the language? That will be a little challenge because this one comes before the page goes to the, before it's rendered to the user. So that will be a tricky one to handle. But basically, and we have done, when we have when we talk about corporate valuation, we did much more sophisticated stuff. And we saw, but this one, it's a nice exercise. The whole block here, it's nothing but this block. All these elements, a 4, and then the 5th one right there. And then we have another title, which is simple stuff. So those 4 is really nothing but 1, 2, 3, 4, all those 4. Then we have the current assets, and then we have those 2, and that's really the first section. The other part for long-term date, assets, some things we're repeating ourselves. We have a header, and then we have a title, and then all of those ones literally repeating themselves. This one I call it PPE, 0, PPE1. What is that? This is really very simple, just the name I gave to this one. So this will be PP. If I do right click and inspect, you can really immediately see at the end of this is really what I'm really doing. Just calling one PP0 and the other one, it's going to be PP1 for a reason. And that will be easy for me to change the numbers in here in JavaScript and do it in a mess of calculating and summing and all of that stuff will be trivial. So that's trick number one. Okay. The same things for the rest. I'll give it to you as an exercise. Okay. The whole thing is very trivial. Okay. It's nothing but a simple HTML code. Okay. So all of that part is really simple HTML. Let's go to the next one. You can guess that this one slightly different. It has only 2 columns in this table, but the naming is, I've been consistent. So that will be revenue 1, and that will be cost of goods sold 1, and etc. etc. Okay. So let's look at the way we did those ones. We have 3 elements here, 1, 2, and 3. Let's look at that. That will be the second div. So if I'm done with this one, I can close it and forget about it because I'm very consistent in the way I named everything. So when I'm writing my JavaScript, I don't even have to think about it. I know it will work because the naming have been done right. This is for the income statement. Very simple. Same idea. See that? Same idea. This time we have 2 columns only. Okay, so the first one will be empty, the second one will suit 2002, and then each block, each element, each row, I should say, will have a, let's break it so it will look at least for the first one, okay, and then the second one, okay. So what do we really have here? We have one TD that have an input in it, which we will be utilizing to update when we need, and just the name. So this is really the name of the account, and this one says revenue. By the way, I just put the value here because I know how it should really look like when you refresh the page the first time. But beside it, in fact, that one you can automate too if you want. But I chose just to put it that way. And then the second one is really the same things, really, yeah. And let's look at it. So I have revenue, and then I have a cost of goods sold will be just the same. Depreciation will be the same. That one will be slightly different because this one doesn't really have an input in it, only just the value. So I won't put anything in the TD, but the naming will be important. Make the naming to be important. So let me put that one the way it was before. And let's find that section again. So the second section is after I get to first 1, 2, 3 was the input. The third one, the fourth one shouldn't have an input, just as simple. But please pay attention, okay? I'm giving it the name. The ID is gross profit, and the gross profit going to be calculated, and I call it gross profit 1 for a reason, because then when I want to write the JavaScript, I want to do automations, and I want it to, so I don't have to go and find out what the name I gave it. So I'm going to work very organized and make my life in the JavaScript to be really easy and simple. Let's move on. Okay, we did the whole things. This is the end of the balance sheet, the income statement, and then we have another part, which is the schedule of retained earning. Okay, very similar idea. Follow up, please, as an exercise. Follow up the way I did the HTML. It's not a course about HTML. That's why I don't want to spend the time on it. And I'm assuming that whoever watched this video already in a level, that shouldn't be an issue for him or her to really understand how I build. The important thing is make sure you give a name and put a 1 in the end. Okay, in the input, put a name, with the I, it should be dividend 1 for this one. Let's really do right click and inspect. You will see that's the way I should really name it. And really indeed it's dividend 1. It's very important because it makes life easy. Now finally we're getting to the buttons. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about how did we build a button. It's a very simple things. Okay, by the way, all these this one look nice. This is really just bootstrap stuff. And by the way, I try to put an icon here. Jeremiah will put a nice icon, or maybe remove it if he find out that it would be better. Maybe put a circle. This is design stuff that this component definitely should go through as the next stage to make it look nice and appealing to the user. Okay, so let's go and look. How do we write the first one? This is the first time we're going to combine HTML and what we're going to use in JavaScript when we click on it. Okay, first things is when I click on it, I'm not going to put a function and link it to it. I'm going to build it up in a smart way. And we know about bubbling in HTML, you know, the model of the DOM model. When I write a function that I want it to be activated by each one of those buttons, I will write it in the hosting element. And that all will bubble up. And I always will know which button I'm clicking because I have the event and I can extract which button I clicked. And from that, I will extract what do I really want to do when I click on the first button. So let's go and look at the first button. Okay, so that's thing it's, where's the button? Oh, here we go. This is the first button. And by the way, in fact, there are two buttons here, yeah? There's the buttons to activate and one is reverse. So this is really making the transaction and this one is for the reverse. And you will see the similarity as well and the beauty in the design. This is the first time we're finally talking about design and making it nicely to mimic what we do really in accounting and do it inside elegantly in the HTML/JavaScript that we're going to use. Stage number 1, okay? I have a button, I put a class, okay? Just to make the button to look whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. Second, the styling, you know, you have those styling, adding, let's forget about that one. I don't really care. That Jeremiah is expert. It's going to make it look so beautiful. But this is the important element. This is really the important. The other one is really the image. I don't really care. Number and image. This one for the language. So all the rest is really, I don't really care. This is the important part. The most important part. I'm putting it in an A. And this one makes sure that it looks like a button. That's why I have a class for button. So I make it look like a button, not a link, as a link. But this is the crucial part. What do we do when we issue equity? Cash goes up and common stock goes up, or, you know, so both of them going up. So what I did here is I made as an attribute, okay, inside the bottom an account, and the truth of the matter, I should really have said an accounts transaction dictionary or something else, but who cares as long as I'm consistent. And really what this one is about which accounts I need to update in the JavaScript when I click on this button. So it's about time to really go and see when I click on it, which function is going to be activated. By the way, this is just a mimic. Since it's the inverse, the account is nothing but the same things just with a minus. So this is really deleting what I did. If I click on this one and then click on this one, it's really the same things. Just in one, I'm adding to those accounts. In the other one, I subtract. Again, I can give it to you as an exercise. How would you do it? Okay, and just do one, and then mimic this one to this one. That would be really cool if you could do that. That would be really, really nice. okay? But I leave it to you. This one is, this is really easy because you don't have any problem with the language. So if I render only this one, you can write a JavaScript that can start when you download the page and make it to enter into that row this element. That's for advanced JavaScript / HTML user. But that will do, simple. You just copy that one, make sure you have an image, and then just make sure. Or when you do a second one, by the way, it could be really easy. Why that could be really easy? Because it's the same things. Just copy the whole things right to here, and just change the name and change the account. Give it the name, and by changing the account, the JavaScript will take care of the rest. Okay? By the way, you can see there should be one of them as a more elaborated transactions, by the way. Here I'm trying to remember one that yeah, this one, you can tell, this one a little more elaborated. It doesn't really, it's not only 2 accounts. This transaction has 1 account, 2nd account, 3rd account, 4th account. In another word, accountants like to call those transactions general ledger entries. So this is really another way to write the general ledger entry. No debit, no credit. I just say what I need to, which account I need to update. But basically, you can look at that mini dictionary that I put here as a general ledger entry, nothing else. And I can write any general ledger I want. Okay? Anybody really that after I talk about databases, by the way, the whole things could be written totally different, this application. But the object of this class or these 2 videos today and the next one is really to show at least introductory level to get to write a nice JavaScript that can do really nice and is a standalone application in accounting inside another web page. So this really, in the end of the day, becomes to be a mini application inside another page and does the whole things and teach accounting. So it's very important when you design something, try to use whatever you already have done and it works perfect. Since this one worked, the idea works perfectly, you just repeat. By the way, I will allow myself to say something from the Bible. You know, the first commandment in the Bible, it's to, and the blessing, by the way, it's to be fruitful and multiply. What does it mean to be fruitful? Be fruitful is do it right. This has a good foundation. In the end of the day, I have a general ledger that I'm writing in the component. After I'm fruitful and I'm doing it the right way, just multiply, do the same things. And that's what you should do everywhere. And that's most likely you'll do it right. Okay? So here's a good example of something written in the Bible more than 3,000 years ago or whatever. And this is really be fruitful, do it right, and then do it again. And you can extend it so easily, even for more sophisticated transactions that have even 4 accounts. We'll talk about that one again as we get it. So now is the time, okay? Now it's the time to go into and look at the function, then activate it when I click on one of those buttons. And the function, I can't really tell here. So what I have to do is just to look up who is the mother of all those buttons. Let's look on, go on, go on. And the T-body is the next. Oh, beautiful. I see here on click function. So probably this one is going to be activated. And no surprise, I put the event inside in order to pull or find out which buttons did I click. Very important. So where is this one? It should be really on the same page if you work nicely. Okay, so allow me to go and find it. Okay, so I put that function some place and we'll see in the future. But in the end of the day, it's right here. This is the function. And by the way, so elegant. And I left here some alert so you can see really what this function does. okay? And later on, I'm going to comment it, and I'm not going to go over it again, but I will go over it for one button or two. And I'm going to remove I will remove the commenting and to allow you to see what I'm doing here. And that will be the end for this session before it gets too long. And the next time we'll finish the rest. There's another function here that I'm using. We'll talk about it next time. Okay, I'll just mention that this one is a general function. After I click on every button, I want the whole screens to calculate. So my bug, if there is a bug, I need to really think what I planned on. This one is in charge of making sure that all the statements will be updated in the right way. Why do I call it twice? We'll see next time, okay? And it works so fast. So it does so much work, but it works so fast you don't even realize, okay? Let's move and click a button and see every stage. So the first one is through the event, I just finding out who is the element I clicked on. That element, if you recall, we put, by the way, this is really, ignore that one. I use it for another places. When we get there, I will talk about it, okay? Okay, I will talk about it later on. So we can ignore this part, and in fact, I will remove it in the comment. I'll put the commenting so we don't talk. I'm skipping this part. I will use it for something else. So step number one, what is the button that I clicked? I found it. Why do I need it? Because I need to find the attribute, okay, which called account, because there I have the dictionary which hold the general ledger. So this is a nice trick. It's a very nice trick, by the way. I will show it to you. First of all, I'm making a string, and then I'm using a function eval. I hope everybody knows the eval. Eval, it's a function in JavaScript. By the way, you have the same in Python, okay? Very powerful one. You take a string and run it as if you run a JavaScript command. So I'm building up a string here that the objective of it is to take the dictionary that it's inside this element that I clicked on, take the dictionary out and put it in a JavaScript, in a JavaScript variable. The truth of the matter, I really should have said let or var, but I'm not going to touch it, but I let you play with it, okay? It won't make a difference in this mini program, but a good practice, use let. So it's very important. So you'll be consistent and it won't. But I will leave it that way. I will work with let and you should use let. Okay. And I leave it to you. But I want to focus on this eval. That's make it very powerful. What really happened when I clicked on the button, I found what button I clicked on. I pulled the dictionary out of there and put it in a variable called A. When I have the variable A, now just generically I can do a loop, and I don't really have to remember or to know which account, because the dictionary will tell me which account are there. By the way, this I did again for you. So you can see the key, which is the account, and the value. This is the key, and that's the value for the account. What do I really want to do? This is the data entry, okay, and I made that transaction. So I'm going to take the account dot value, put into it whatever it had already, and add to it whatever in this dictionary. One more time. Okay. First of all, what is I? I is the name of the account in the dictionary. So what I really want to do, if I have cash, that will say cash dot value. Cash one. Cash one dot value. Hold a second. But cash one is not really defined in JavaScript. I did put as an ID for the element I want to update, but it's not defined as a JavaScript, so it will give me an error. It will not. We will see why in a minute, okay? Because it's really defined in another place before I get to this button. So you want to see, in fact, the recalc, you will see the recalc defined it, okay? And recalc is being called before even this application starting, okay? But somewhere else, I have to make sure that every element in the HTML that I give it an ID, let's say cache 1, I make sure that there is a JavaScript, global JavaScript, 1 or 0, because I'm using both of them, and I rename it to be that name. And then I can use it here. Why can I use it here? Because what I'm doing is I'm making a string again. I'm taking cache 1, for example, because this is the first one you're going to loop, and we'll see it. I'm going to say cache 1 dot value to be equal again. By the way, if you look at that one, this is really cache 1 dot value. I'm turning it to integer because I'm using just integer numbers. I could have used, float if I wanted to deal with cents, but this is an example, so I didn't really want to waste my time on that. So I turn it from a string to a integer. Take the new value, by the way, A1, okay? A1, it will be really the value. So that will be a number that is in the dictionary. I'm just making sure it will be an integer, adding the 2, putting it back to where it's supposed to be. But pay attention, this is a string. And after I have the string again, I use the same trick with the eval. So the eval, run it, and it will update everything. When I have those things updated, meaning I updated some field, the recalc has to do the work and update everywhere. Let's do it. Okay, let's do it, go over it. Let's let's refresh the screen. Okay, clean everything. Everything's clean. And we'll talk about this button later on. And let's click the first button. I'm clicking. What do I get? As I told you, I'm pulling the element that I clicked on. Very simple. Everybody probably know that. That's really the first things that I do. I get the button. By the way, I can really comment it back so we don't have to see it again and again. This one I said we ignore, so we're not going to see it. And by the way, in our case, it doesn't really do anything because it doesn't fulfill the if condition, so it's not going to do anything. So the next one we're going to see, it's this one, the string that I'm going to run. What is the string? Let's see. I'm going to take the account attributes from here, and the account is a dictionary. So I'm going to click, and here we go. A equal to exactly the dictionary that was in the bottom. Now I have a dictionary. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to add 50 to the cache 1, which is really this one. And I have to add to the common stack 1, meaning period 1, common stack, here it is. So this 2 has to be updated by plus. One of them has to be added. But who makes sure that A will be a dictionary? It's the eval. When I click on it, the eval turned the A to be an object. And when I do an alert A, it tells me it's an object. And the object is really a dictionary. Let's comment those one out. We don't really want to see it. And I'm going to demonstrate one more. Maybe I should leave it for another one when I will show another example. So we'll see that it's so simple. Yeah, let me leave that so you can see really another example. Okay, okay. Now that I know this is an object, I'm looping over each one of them, and I want to see the key and the value. That's what I would see first. So here we go. I'm looping. Yeah, the first one, the first key is cache 1. The value is 50. And now I'm building what the JavaScript is supposed to look like. JavaScript is supposed to look like, as I said, cache 1.value equal to turn that one to integer just to make sure I can add and I won't get any problem. JavaScript is forgiving in many times. You automatically convert to the right things, but I don't count on anything. I just write it the way I think it's definitely will work. Turn both of them to integer, add them up, That's what I want to be in the cache 1, meaning right here. I said another place I defined that this one is cache 1, which I haven't shown you yet. That will be in the next video. And when I click on it, I'm really running the eval, and the eval executed. Bingo. The second one, and the second loop, come and start. What? And again, 1, 50. Again, that's the command, exactly the same things. The eval will run it. Bingo. Both of them run. This is updated. This is updated. That's pretty cool. Okay. So this is really, let me say, in my opinion, the most important for a programmer, and all the subject matter, of course, very well. You need to be a really good accountant. You should really, if you really want to write an application, you should be really a good accountant. And if you deal with later on financial statement analysis, and we'll talk about it, you really should know financial statement analysis very well. That's one. Second, you should know JavaScript extremely well. You should know HTML extremely well. Okay? And after you know those two, you really need to design it in the right way. And the design, unfortunately, aren't many books there. In my opinion, it's more important even knowing JavaScript. Knowing JavaScript is 50% of the work. The other, I should say, the other 50% that make a difference is a good design. If you don't have a good design, you will be working extremely hard, okay? So the first button that we just clicked, you see how elegantly we picked up the button. We know this is the A, and inside we pull the account. We looped around it. We did a for in JavaScript. We pulled the key, we pull the value, write the command that update the screen, and bingo, everything's working. By the way, this works the same things, just in the inverse. And using really the same function. Leave it to you as an exercise. I will upload this code to a GitHub and show with you the file, okay? So you can play with it. Recommend to you, really. By the way, whoever that doesn't really have the whole framework of Django CMS installed, or don't want to waste his time just to learn this one, just take this one as a standalone HTML. Okay, remove the stuff that has with Ginger language, put around it HTML, and it will work just as a program. And it can work on your desktop. You don't really need a server. You don't need anything. Okay, just wrap it up with HTML, and then it will work just in an application. If anybody wants, write me a comment and asking for it. I will build up one for 5 minutes. It takes to do it. And then it can be as a standalone HTML, by the way. Okay. Last thing is just I will go one more example. For the second one is when we issue, I think we issue debt or issue bonds, I should say, or taking a loan, whatever it is. It's simple. You see, it's really almost a duplicate of the first one. Everything is the same, just the name different. The account, very similar. Cash will go up by 600. But this time, instead of common stock, I will have long-term liability. Liability is one. Very simple. No brain now. It's so simple. The same function will do the same things. Let's try it. Let's click on this one. Here we go. This is the component, the element. Pull away, pull out the account, put it inside the A, which is, this is the string, but the eval will work and A becomes to be an object. It is really a dictionary. I loop around over it. The first one is cache. I'm going to add 600 to it. This is the command. Again, cache. I'm taking whatever is there, but this time, whatever is there is already 50 from the previous one. So it's going to add to the 50, it's going to add the 600. So it will go into turn to 650. The next one, looping around, long-term liabilities, 600 going to be added. This is the command of JavaScript. This is a string. The eval will put it in the right place. And here we go. No surprise, I got 650. This time I got 600 in here. Before the previous transactions, I had the 50. okay? You add them up, everything's balanced. Who makes sure that this balance will be 650, this 650, this 50, and this 650? It's the function recalc in the very end, which, as I said, we're going to talk about next time, okay? Okay, so far we talked about the balance sheet, transaction to sample. We went over 2 buttons. We mentioned how elegant this function can be, by the way. Okay, it's really could be, I'm not going to show that anymore, and hope you guys will watch the video at least a couple of times. Whoever is not expert, if you are expert, I'm sure that 90% here you should know, but the only contributions here is really thinking creative in a creative way to implement something in accounting using JavaScript. That's the contributions of this one. And this function basically making sure that all the statements are updated after I do the change, okay? And that's what we'll do next time, and we'll finish up that video. One last comment I forgot to mention, I should have said it in the beginning of the video. I said that this is the plugin, and really the plugin is nothing but a mini HTML piece, which I can plug everywhere. And you should know by now, whoever work with Django, I can do this one by using an include. So a plugin is nothing but a different way to add and include into a page using the Django CMS. Let me give an example with that I conclude. I just forgot, apology, to, and hopefully I will find it easy, or it should be. I use a lot of include. If you look here in my corporate valuation program, okay, if you look at my page home, there's a lot of stuff, and it does beautiful work. And this is a complete automatic corporate valuation system that I hope to finish in the next month. And you see here I use includes because I'm not going to give it to the public or anybody else to use it. So this one, I could have turned it into a plugin, but there was no real point. Moreover, here I'm using a really sophisticated way that this one, in the end of the day, turning up to be a tab where, a tab content within a kind of a tab. Maybe I will just show it to you quickly if I can find it. Yeah, I can find it. By the way, you see this one is an include, the whole thing, this part. So when I click, let's say on this one, this is an include, the whole things. And by the way, inside this include, I have another folder. When you click on this one, by the way, you're getting, wow. By the way, this is just a proof telling you this is work by JavaScript Ajax. So when you really first time click on it, there's nothing there. But as you get into it, it's activating JavaScript. It goes to the server, bring the data, make the chart in a nice JavaScript library, okay? And does whatever it does. Whoever knows risk premium in corporate valuation is extremely important. And this is a very good one to show everybody. And I will talk about it in corporate valuation course, definitely not here. But just to mention, those are being managed, each one of them, it's a folder, okay? Everything here looks like empty. If I go into the input, let me refresh this one, by the way, and show you just a mini example. And with that, we will conclude. Let's take our own company, bingo. I got all the data from the SEC. And by the way, there's one more thing I really should use, and I'm going to automate it. I have to choose the country in which, blah, 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 another thing, but even that will be automated. And the beauty here, you're getting a automatic valuation, okay? And a lot of things fill up, all the financial statement fill up automatically. That's a little more creative. But the point I'm trying to make is Django plugin is nothing but an include, just in another way to put it inside the hosting page. Okay, I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the video, so I'm doing it now. Thank you very much, guys. Hope that you will join us. This one is not really just a regular mini courses on Python or course on JavaScript. No, it's adding things that I think are added value. And the message, accountant, finance people, it's about time you study Python. We're going to make a video about Excel. Why Excel is wonderful, but is like the honey cage. You get stuck with it, so you don't learn new stuff. And honestly, doing it with Excel would be a nightmare. It will work eventually, and then you will use Visual Basic stuff. And then what are you ending up doing? You have to give Excel to everybody. Now, people downloading Excel, okay, it works. But if you want to do a change, every time somebody had to download the Excel, no, it has to be a web-driven. And a web-driven, it's a web page. And a web page, you do with HTML. And if you want to make it dynamic, use JavaScript. You want to use the database, you use Python. You want to integrate between the two, you use Ajax, connect between the two. Over time, you build up your beautiful component in Python, you build up your own component in JavaScript, and things works extremely fast. We try to open more stuff that we do in Academy City. Hope you like it. You can click like if you like it and subscribe. We'd like to see you again. Thank you. Questions, guys? Brenda, Daniel, Jeremiah,
Yes, sir.
Mildred, Jonathan, anybody?
I have one question. I needed more clarity on the case study function where we have the S.
One more time, let me share the screen again and leave me. I can give you control of the screen if you ask me, and then you can even go there. Which place do you want me to go?
The case studies function. Case studies.
So it's in the JavaScript.
It's in the FSN, HTML.
In the HTML, so I'm there. So
The case study. The script.
The last JavaScript.
The last JavaScript. The script case studies.
the case studies,
Yes.
I don't get you, so apology.
Look at the case studies, the last JavaScript there. The
Ah.
function case study.
The case studies that I added there in the end here. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the function.
The same things, they're activating the same function. All of them propagating, and then eventually they're getting to the end here. And they should go to the T-body. In fact, here I put it inside the table. I really didn't need to. I could have taken this one and put it right in the, to be consistent. This really should be here if I really want to be consistent, if that's what you're asking.
If you could only go to the case studies function, I have a question there. The function case studies.
Okay. This one is inside the script element. Let me find it. Here it is. This is what the function is defined.
Yes. Where there is the S, I don't get, could it be possible the S equals to A? Why do we need the S?
This one is this is cool. What we're doing here, stage number one, by the way, here, I'm pulling, okay, get attribute. I call it class. No, this one you can ignore, we said. But what we're doing here is I'm taking in the S, it's a string. So I'm building a string to say A equal to, I'm pulling the attribute from the element, and the attribute is a dictionary I put inside the button. So what does it really do, the S? What is really S? That's what when I commented out, it will say A equal to the dictionary. So if I run that in JavaScript, it will make a variable that holds the dictionary. That's the trick. That's the beautiful part. By the way, in another place, okay, I think when we do the financial statement analysis, we use the trick, and there we did it even more dynamic, okay? Very similar to that one, but when we have a lot of rows and we don't even know the names, so we do a loop like that. And the loop just turning them to a variable in JavaScript, and then we're adding more columns in the row. And I might talk about it by the end of next session, or maybe we'll make another session on how we built the financial statement analysis component, and I will talk about it. And there, it might be a good one to take one of them, because that one is include, okay? And I will show how you can really use the same things in include and go over that trick again. Because what I'm doing here is the S really is a string, and the string says A equal to a dictionary. But the string itself doesn't turn A to be a dictionary, but I want A to be the dictionary. Now, after I run the eval, A becomes to be a dictionary. And now I can loop for I in A, it will loop over all the keys inside the A, which is a dictionary. The first one was cache 1. The second one was common stack 1 for the first button. And that's, I do another trick. I make another string. By the way, this is also a string. And that's one, after I make the string, I run the eval, and the eval is actually updating the page. It's a very nice trick, very powerful trick. Please do go over it over and over, and write me a comment if you have more questions. I will maybe elaborate even more, okay? More questions, guys, before we break? Thank you, guys. So see you next time.